Hey everybody, Dr. Knuckle here with eSleep Wellness. So I thought I would just build on the sleep efficiency thing that we just talked about on our last video. And so now that we know how to calculate a sleep efficiency, it's important to know what we can do with that and how we can better our sleep. So if you did your sleep efficiency and found out that your ratio of time asleep to time in bed isn't that great, which would be less than 80%. I would say you should work on it if you're less than 80%. And if you fall under that category, what do you do about it? So I sort of alluded to what sleep experts do when they're working with a client. And basically, the whole sleep restriction idea, and that's not really a sleep restriction. It's really more time in bed restriction. I prefer the, wording more like sleep scheduling or something like that. So what it is really is it's reducing the amount of time you spend in bed to better match the amount of time you're actually sleeping. The problem is that insomniacs spend too much time awake in bed and not sleeping. That's their problem. And so in order to try to fix that, you reduce the amount of time that you spend in bed. But not trying to cut the actual time spent sleeping. And then that will boost your sleep efficiency. Well, why does that matter? The reason why that matters is because sleep efficiency, when it's poor, makes the bed more of a cue for wakefulness. And when you have good sleep efficiency and you basically spend the time in bed sleeping, it then makes the bed a good cue for sleeping, and it induces sleepiness. If you spend a lot of time in bed staring at the ceiling or ruminating or wondering when you're ever going to fall asleep or calculating hours of how much time you have left before you have to wake up to go to work, it ends up eventually creating a bit of a physiologic response. And it ends up, instead of the bed being a cue to your body for sleepiness, it ends up being a cue for wakefulness, which is totally not what you want. You want the opposite. So in order to try to reverse those effects, that bad cue, you have to reduce the amount of time you're spending in bed staring at the ceiling, ruminating, calculating hours, that kind of thing. And so you can get closer to the amount of time that you're actually sleeping and improve your sleep efficiency. And then what you can do is then you can eventually, once you start to correct that, add time back. So if you have a bad sleep efficiency, the best thing I recommend is trying to find the area where you spend the most time awake. So for example, if it's that you spend the most time awake in the morning, you wake up too early and you can't go back to sleep, then, when we talked about the rising time, set your rising time earlier so that you cut off that time that you're laying there awake. And so that you now, instead of allowing yourself 8, 10, whatever it is, hours in bed, and not using it, you just don't give yourself that much time so that you can maximize the amount of time that you have, in bed sleeping. But now what I would also recommend is to not cut your time by more than 1 hour every week. Because, it will be an adjustment. And if you have a lot of hours, what you want to allow yourself is at least 1 hour in bed beyond your average sleep duration. So if you did the sleep diary and you know your average sleep duration, and let's say your average sleep duration is 5 hours, that's generally all you get a night, but you spend 8 or 9 hours in bed, well, really the goal is that you should only be spending 1 hour more than your sleep duration, which is 6 hours in bed. But if you're spending, let's say, 9 hours in bed, and you're supposed to only be spending 6 hours in bed to, get close to your sleep duration, then that is a drastic cut and a hard adjustment for you. So I would recommend not cutting time any faster than an hour a week. And even then, you might find that that's hard. You may want to do 1 hour every 2 weeks. Feel it out. I mean, if you were working with a sleep expert, you would do this process and continue to fill out the sleep diary and see, bumps in the road and with some other tactics at the same time. But this is, gives you the opportunity to try to, see what do sleep experts do with their clients and to try to do it a little bit on your own, because sleep experts are very expensive. And this gives you the chance to try to figure out how to do it without paying a fortune. So that's the tip for today. And hopefully you can start practicing and cutting a little bit of time and improving your sleep efficiency and changing the cue for your bed to now be for sleepiness instead of wakefulness. All right, I'll see you on the next one. Take care, guys.